Okay, I think I'll go ahead. Well, it's 7:01. Let me give it just a couple more minutes because and then I'm gonna do the roll call. And for those of you that are just coming on now, if you do have the ability to change your name by adding who you're representing, if you are representing a planning group, that would be great to have your planning group name next to your name.
So who can tell me how to do that?
Well, I used to know. I think you have to go into your, if you is it
look
right?
at your picture on top and there's 3 dots,
Yeah,
to the
click
right, click it, and then at the bottom it says rename.
Yep, rename at the bottom, exactly.
The
Thank
meeting
you.
info? Meeting info?
Yeah, so in your picture of your face there, if you go up into your box, there's a blue box with 3 little dots in the right corner.
Okay.
If you click on that at the very, and then a menu should come up, and at the very bottom it should say rename,
Okay.
and that should allow you to put in, add to your name or change the name.
Oops.
Yeah, the other way to do it is to just go into find your name in the list of participants and press on your name. And there's 2 choices, raise hand or rename. And you can choose rename there, which might be easier.
Perfect.
I got it done. So
Thank you, John.
thank you.
Okay, it's 7:03. I'm going to go ahead and take the roll call. So if you are representing your planning group, please unmute and let me know that you're here, your name, and that you're representing. So we've got a few more people coming on. So let's go ahead. I'm going to start with Barrio Logan, Carmel Mountain Ranch. And also, if you are on, and if I could ask you to remain muted until I call your name, that would be great too. So, okay, we're going to go back to, all right. Carmel Mountain Ranch, Carmel Valley.
Here.
Choyas Valley and Canto. City Heights. Claremont. I hear some more people dinging in here. College area. Del Mar Mesa. Downtown.
Here.
Eastern area.
Here.
Greater Golden Hill. Kearney Mesa. Kensington Talmadge.
Here.
La Jolla.
Here.
Linda Vista.
Present.
Midway.
Here.
Mira Mesa. Mission Beach. Mission Valley.
Present.
Navajo. Normal Heights. North Park.
Present.
Ocean Beach. Old Town. Otay Mesa. Otay Mesa Nestor. Pacific Beach.
Here.
Peninsula.
Here.
Rancho Bernardo.
Present.
Rancho Penasquitos. San Pasqual Lake Hodges. San Ysidro. Scripps Ranch is here. Sarah Mesa. Skyline Paradise Hills. Southeastern. Tierra Santa. Torrey Hills. Torrey Pines.
Here.
University. Did I hear University? No?
Yes, you did.
Yeah, I did. Okay. Uptown.
Here.
Okay. Okay.
I counted
Um,
17, Victoria.
You got 17?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Has anybody joined after roll call that's representing a planning group?
I not
Yes.
sure that you I couldn't undo my mute.
I got
Okay.
I got you.
You got,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah.
And you're from
Del Mar Mesa.
Del Mar Mesa. Okay, thank you. Del Mar Mesa, okay. Any others that have joined that after the roll call? All right, we're going to go ahead and move on. I'll talk to Marlon about our quorum numbers, and we'll be able to figure that out.
I'm counting more than 17 on my little boxes.
Well, not everybody's representing a planning group, though.
Okay.
So, all right. Okay, let's see. Let me just grab the agenda. I made this agenda. I looked through our bylaws to make sure that that I did all the agenda information correctly. And so we do not actually need to do non-agenda public comment in a special meeting according to our bylaws. And so we've done the roll call. So we can actually dive right into the SB 79 correspondence. I did send that out to everybody earlier today. We have had a few more revisions to it from the committee that was the working group committee that was working on it. So I'm going to bring that up, and I'm going to ask those committee members to address it. In particular, I want to thank Laura. She did the initial drafting of the newsletter. So I think it was Laura, right? Yes. And then the rest of the folks that were in there, had a lot of input. So the team effort on this letter was great. So we're going to go ahead and let me bring that up. I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to try. Again, thank you guys for being patient with me. This is running Zoom is not something I do very regularly. So let's see if I can bring this up. So let me know. Can you see this, the letter?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so we're going to kind of get into it. Hopefully you had time to read this. We went back and forth a lot. We talked with some of our council members' offices on a couple issues that we found while we were putting this together. And that one of them was the fact sheet that I also sent out to everybody along with this letter. That fact sheet just kind of gave an overview of SB 79, but it also put in there who was sponsoring the legislation as well, which it had in there that the city of San Diego is endorsing this. So we had some questions about that, and I'll let the working group folks go into that. So some of the information that we have here, if you'll notice, the sheet that you have, the one that I sent out, we've made a couple changes. And one of them is, you can see in the red, this is I'm tracking changes with the review here. And it really is speaking to Senator Scott Wiener's fact sheet. So before we go into those, did any of the working group folks have any specific things they wanted to address with the group, or Yes, I've got a hand raised. Chloe, is it? Go ahead and unmute, Chloe.
Hi, sorry, I just wanted to make sure I had my hand raised for when it's open to comments.
Okay.
Thank
Okay.
you.
All right, no problem. Thanks. Okay, so if I can get let me bring up if it's okay, Felicity, if I can call on you because you brought in these last couple changes in particular.
Sure.
And I don't know if we want to go over the whole thing and why we wrote what we did, or if you want to just talk about the changes and then we can go back to getting comments about the things that we wrote.
Sure. Starting with the fact sheet, I think the biggest concern is that we were writing a letter in opposition to SB 79 based on the things that are stated in this letter, but we had some concern over being a representative committee of 41 communities of the city of San Diego, and then juxtaposing that with a fact sheet that said the city of San Diego actually supported this thing. So we dug into it a little bit, and thank you very much, Victoria, for getting the information at such short notice in understanding how Senator Wiener's office could make that statement. And as it turns out, it's based on a very loose and vague interpretation of how SB 79 comports with the city's planning platform. The city's planning platform was approved by the city council, and someone in the government affairs office, some legislative analyst in the government affairs office decided that SB 79 was consistent with our city council's platform on planning. So what we opted to do here is to point out that although support is stated in Senator Wiener's fact sheet, there actually is no explicit support on the record. So that accounts for the change in the first paragraph. A little bit further down, you'll see some added language. And I think this formatting got a little wonky. The 1 and the 2 were meant to be footnotes, and we can work on that reformatting, but those are essentially footnotes that support the statements that were made regarding the bonus ADU program. And what our goal was here was to point out that San Diego has been through some pretty significant challenges with unbalanced density, which is what our opposition to SB 79 is largely based upon, right? It's this unbalanced density that sort of just seems to almost indiscriminately add where like our bonus ADU program did, and we faced significant challenges with that. So we pulled that out as a very specific example that we've been through in our city, and we would prefer not to put our residents through again. I think what's appropriately highlighted here is the statement directly from our city's planning director that we're looking for public safety and development at scale with surrounding neighborhoods. So that accounts for the second addition there that was put in after the letter went out. I don't know if you have anything else you'd like me to say about that, but that's sort of my understanding.
No, I thought that was good. I think it's important that we that's included because we have just gone through the bonus ADU and all of the amendments and all, a big long process that really is focused on this very issue, just coming in and doing a one size fits all for the whole city and realizing that there's all kinds of potential problems with that. So I think it was important to put that in. Okay.
There may be others who want to elaborate on those points.
Yeah, if I could have other working group, Eric or who all I'm forgetting all my working group folks.
David,
David, if anybody else can, come in and provide some more information of us making these changes and why. Or not changes, but the letter itself.
Maybe it's just time to go through the letter
Okay,
by paragraph and state the basic point of whichever paragraph we're on.
okay, that's a good idea. All right, so starting at the beginning, the Community Planners Committee representing 41 community planning groups throughout the city of San Diego urges you to vote no on Senate Bill 79 Wiener, hereafter SB 79. As the elected community voices for the city, we urge you to consider what is appropriate for San Diego and your constituents. While Senator Scott Wiener's fact sheet updated yesterday or day before 7/7/25 states, the city of San Diego supports SB 79. Neither the mayor nor the city council have explicitly endorsed SB 79. As explained more fully below, there is good reason to reject SB 79 in its entirety. Okay, so do we have questions, comments? And I can go ahead and, Chloe, if you want to go ahead and ask, is your question have to do with the letter overall, or is this a good time for you to have your question? Okay. Kathleen.
So I think the changes to paragraph 1 are excellent. I think it's much clearer now and more forceful. So I'd like to thank everybody who worked on this because it's a great letter. But yeah, I like the changes to paragraph 1. Thank you.
Great. Okay. Any other comments on paragraph 1? And oh, by the way, you have, if everybody knows to raise your hand, I guess I'm kind of assuming everybody's done a Zoom before, and maybe I shouldn't assume that, but there is a location on your screen where you can, I think it's the 3 dots. Maybe John can help us again, because I've got a host screen here. So where you raise your hand. Has everybody found it, and how you unmute yourself and all of that? If not, you can maybe send a message in the comment section or chat section. All right, I'm going to move on to the second paragraph. Our opposition is grounded in the sweeping nature of SB 79 that fails to fully contemplate the diversity of California's geography, topography, infrastructure, and planning needs. Although SB 79 proposes a fixed tiered approach and a, quote, local transit-oriented development alternative plan provision, presumably to address this reality, it fails. These mechanisms for density embedded in SB 79 are deeply misaligned with the characteristics and needs of cities such as San Diego. Okay. I have Maxwell's hand up. Maxwell, if you'd like to unmute.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
I was going to make a comment on the letter more generally. I support SB 79. I think this is a great bill to put housing near where transit has been built and where people want to be. And I think that would be not smart to reject this while we are in a housing crisis in this city. Thank you.
Thank you, Maxwell. Okay, John.
Well, I think the idea is underlying, and I'm going to take, I guess, a counter view, that SB 79 assumes that high density near transit, which is very loosely defined. And I think that's the weakness in the bill, is it could include transit that might meet this standard in the future, because it's up to SANDAG to determine that. And their current determination of transit-oriented development includes transit stops that do not exist today, but are in a plan. So that's an underlying weakness. The other thing is high density near transit is not necessarily an inherent good, and it's not necessarily where everybody wants to live. The RENA provides a framework for that local governments have to meet, and they should allowing local innovation based on topography, all the things you talked about is the way to go. And San Diego, although it hasn't been fully realized, has a very effective community planning effort, which is open and involves the public and has created Mission Valley and Little Italy and University City and all these places where high density is both appropriate and near transit. But taking University City as an example, there are single family neighborhoods there, there are mid-rise neighborhoods, and there are high-rise neighborhoods. And all those different types of people that want to live in different housing types are all within close proximity to transit. And the city has been a very effective agent in meeting its RENA numbers. Getting that housing built is a whole different kettle of fish. But as far as allowing the density to exist, we don't need a top-down, one-size-fits-all approach. The goal is to provide this amount of housing and to provide and to provide a variety of housing types near transit, not to provide one type of housing near transit. So that's my little soapbox.
Okay, thank you, John. Okay, Harry?
Oh, hi. Thanks so much. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Yeah, thanks a lot. I appreciate, since people are chiming in on this well-crafted letter and all the information that went into it. I want to share two things. I am a member of the La Jolla Community Planning Association. I am not speaking for them. I am a former president of the Community Planning Association. And so I've had experience with the Community Planners Committee method of operation. I want to say two things about the substance of the proposal and the process. Number one, and I'm not speaking for the Planning Association at all, I'm just sharing, I appreciate everyone's work and I've been part of it. I support SB 79. We need more housing of all types, especially near coastal high resource areas. And I've seen a consistent opposition to any form of development whatsoever under any premises or guises or fake reasons. And I'll just say that. But I understand people's appreciation of the SB 79 details on the bus routes. And as a bus rider of the 30 bus in La Jolla, which has a lot of area to develop condos and multi-unit developments, I look forward to seeing how SB 79 can enhance that. That said, and I know people oppose that, on a procedural level, I would share with everyone, as a former president of the Community Planning Association, when I would attend the monthly meetings at the Community Planners Committee, our bylaws prohibited me from voting on anything that did not come before our Community Planning Association. And I would think that whether it's in the bylaws of other community planning groups or not, that's a very reasonable and democratic approach to handling such matters of voting. So in conclusion, I support SB 79, and as a former president of a community planning association, I think that the Community Planners Committee should, and I know it's hard, we're all volunteers, it's challenging to coordinate schedules and agendas and all that, but I personally was prohibited from voting on matters until they were presented before the board, which I agreed with. And I would encourage other presidents and other representatives of the Community Planning Committee to act likewise. Thank you.
Thank you, Harry. Okay, Jeff?
Sorry, am I next?
Yes, thanks, Jeff.
Okay. I assume we're on this second paragraph. I just wanted to point out that this local transit-oriented development alternative plan is just unrealizable. You have to have an alternative plan that creates the same number of zoned units. And Our estimate of what SB 79 would do is it would zone for somewhere north of 4 million units. And we obviously, there's no reconfiguration of zoning short of producing New York, Manhattan high rises that would push that back to transit. And that's the fundamental flaw of this is, once again, we're using as the crow flies to measure distance to transit as opposed to actual walking distance to transit, which is the only accepted form. And when you really look at transit surveys from Sandag, people will walk a quarter mile to a bus and no more than a half mile to rail. And both of those standards are missing from this bill. Thanks.
Thank you, Jeff. I've got Paul next.
Yeah, this is Paul Jameson. I want to express my support for SB 79. I agree that the top-down approach is not really the best way, but it feels like we've just gotten to this point where doing it in a San Diego-based way or letting each community have local control has resulted in the housing crisis. And we're really at the point where I don't understand why we would continue with that failed approach, because the housing crisis has just gotten worse since, like, say, SB 50, which I believe this group also opposed, and it's kind of similar to SB 79. So, this group has opposed SB 9, 10, 50, 330, complete communities, the ADU program. I know none of those were perfect, right? But we have to do something. And I disagree that the city has been effective in meeting the RHNA numbers. I don't think we're on pace to meet the 108,000 units by 2029. I may be mistaken. So I think that putting new density near transit certainly makes sense. Again, this is probably not an ideal bill, but we need to do something. Like, what I'd like to see here is, what's the alternative? Maybe that's on a later page here, but just going back to our existing failed approach of local control is not working. And the final thing I'll say, I know I've been talking for a while, is that you hear mayors in other cities like John Minto is it in Santee and Wells and El Cajon, and they're saying that we shouldn't have to build more housing near transit. We shouldn't have to go above our whatever 2 or 3 story height limit. And they are continuing to advocate for more sprawl, which is terrible from a climate standpoint and from a wildfire standpoint. So this would really enable adding new housing where it belongs. I know it has some negative impacts on communities, but we have to do something. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. I've got Brendan next. Downtown.
Yes. Hello, all. I think it goes without saying that the San Diego is facing serious related issues of housing shortage, chronic homelessness, and strained municipal finances. I totally agree with what the previous commenter just said. This is an imperfect bill that's necessary. There is absolutely no real solution to those crises without fundamentally changing development patterns. And there is no solution to those crises without dense housing near transit lines. It's just a precondition for efficient cities. It's how every city in the world just about runs, except for a handful out here in California, which are breaking. And so, we can, whatever the CPC decides to support or oppose this, I will oppose this. You can't oppose this and then in good faith say you're working to a solution. There just, as a point of fact, is not a solution that does not involve dense corridors near transit. Thank you.
Thank you, Brendan. Chloe.
Thanks for giving me another try. Sorry about that earlier.
No worries.
As a community leader and downtown resident, and also the leader of a San Diego nonprofit organization, I strongly support SB 79, a vital bill that makes it easier to build homes within a half mile, as we all know, of major transit stops. What you all are saying that this is a one-size-fits-all bill is not correct. It's a very specific bill with different tiers. And I'm deeply concerned that the CPC would even consider opposing it. This bill has the backing of respected local organizations, including Families for a Safe Street San Diego, YIMBY Democrats of San Diego, Strong Town San Diego, UCSD Housing Commission, Ride SD, Bike SD, Businesses for Good San Diego, Circulate San Diego, and Our Time to Act. And if the CPC continues to approve this letter. It in no way represents our 42 or 52, however many community CPGs we have here, or the residents of them. Our city has invested in public transit. We are in the midst of a housing crisis, a climate crisis, among other things, other crises, and we must make it easier to build housing so that people can experience car-free or car-light living, walkable, bikeable, urban lifestyles. Housing near transit increases ridership, reduces the demand for car parking, car storage, and allows our communities to truly thrive. Many of our current transit stops, including the Blue Line extension, are surrounded by surface parking lots instead of housing and commerce. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chloe. David.
Thank you, Victoria. So my first comment is directed to the question raised by Harry Bubbins about the bylaws of various planning groups. And I believe that La Jolla's requirement that every vote be pre-approved by their sitting planning group board is totally and completely unique to La Jolla. And the bylaws of the CPC assume that CPC members are able to make independent judgments on issues that come before them. The only requirement to sort of vote as directed is if your planning group tells you to vote as directed. I mean, the CPC couldn't even function if everything had to go through a two-step process with every planning group. My second comment is to something said by Downtown, which I agree with, which is what we need are dense corridors, dense transit corridors. And that means corridors, not broad, mindless circles on maps that have no relation to topography or infrastructure or the other issues mentioned in the letter. And I think that goes finally to a final comment about most bills that I see coming from Senator Wiener, which is that they fundamentally misunderstand the cause of California's housing issue. He treats every housing problem as an underzoning problem, and that is not the cause of California's issue. It really is a land turnover problem. And yes, there are issues and ideas to help resolve that. And maybe someday soon, CPC will hear something about that.
All right, thank you. Leaf.
Okay, sorry, I had muted myself. Yeah, thank you for giving me the time to speak. My name is Leif Gensert. I'm the Vice President of Right SD. We have come out in support of SB 79 in the past. I just want to reiterate that. There's not a ton I can add to what the previous speaker said. I agree that we're in a housing crisis. The house is on fire, and it feels a little bit like we're debating what we can do to save the carpet. We need to do something. SB 10 has been optional in the past, which led to everybody opting out of SB 10. So it was just a matter of time until it comes back to make something like that mandatory. So I want to close with I strongly support SB 79, and yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Becky.
Hi, thank you. And good evening. My name is Becky Rappin. I would like to thank you for taking a position in opposition to Senate Bill 79. I want to voice my strong support for the CPC's letter and thank all of you for defending the integrity of local planning and public health and safety. SB 79 is not just about housing. It's about what happens to our neighborhoods when local oversight is stripped away from us. As someone who works in public health and community advocacy, I'm especially concerned about the unintended consequences that SB 79 would have on our communities, specifically relating to businesses that would locate near and around housing. For example, smoke shops, pot shops, tobacco retailers, and other businesses. When promoting dense mixed-use development near transit and removing local zoning discretion, the doors are wide open for more of these businesses to operate directly adjacent to housing. Many of San Diego's pot shops, vape stores, and tobacco retailers are located in commercial zones along transit corridors. So SB 79 would force new high-density housing into those same areas without any ability for local communities to weigh in with with the risk of placing families, seniors, and children right next to storefronts that sell these products, significantly creating an unbalanced density area. So I thank you for opposing SB 79 and advocating for planning groups. It protects not only the housing supply, but also public health and safety and the quality of life for all San Diegans. So thank you.
Thank you, Becky. Michael?
Yeah, Mike Sullivan here for Uptown. Our community planning group is highly diverse. We have a lot of different neighborhoods and we have a lot of different opinions here. So though my opinion doesn't matter as much as just showing that recognizing that there's a diversity of opinions throughout all these community planning groups, and especially for ones like ours in downtown. I guess I'm just a little bit concerned about the highly negative terms that are in the document, especially like at the end of the first paragraph where it says reason to reject SB 79 in its entirety. There's some good parts in SB 79. I don't think it should say in its entirety. Maybe be concerned about SB 79, but if you're wanting to try to get someone to consider additional changes, often it's good not to just say you reject it completely. You should recognize that there are some good parts of it. There's some areas that you have concerns on. And, our group may be in a minority compared to others that are on here relative to whether they support this or don't support it. But I think recognize that there are some areas that are need to really soften down some of that language a little bit and recognize that there are some important things that could be done in here, but maybe this bill is just not constructed right as it stands now.
Thank you, Michael. Gail?
Yes, hi, Gail Freed. I'm a former member of the Uptown, what's called Uptown Planners Community Planning Group, and I'm really not understanding why you would even write this letter in this way. Local control just means no, and that's where we've gotten where we are. And so I don't see how everybody has agreed on this, or whether it was brought forward to the citizens that you are having a voice for. And looking at the people here, it looks like most of you probably have houses and are living in those homes that you've owned for a very long time, and now you're going to oppose more housing. I don't understand it. I really appreciate what Michael Singleton just said about maybe making it, offering some suggestions for change, but just the way you have the letter right now is, I just have to say, I'm really opposed to how you're doing this, and I am in support of SB 79. Thank you.
Thank you, Gail. Matthew?
Hi, everybody. Thanks for the opportunity to speak on this. I am opposed to State Bill 79. I think the bill is deeply flawed. I think it essentially just gives carte blanche to the developers to put buildings wherever they want. There's not enough regulation in there. As one of the other callers said, it's as the crow flies. You're not taking into consideration hills, canyons, alleyways. You got people in wheelchairs who have to get to this local transportation, and it's loosely worded. So it could be a bus line, and there's essentially a bus line every half mile in San Diego. So you can destroy single family community neighborhoods, as we've already seen, where developers are tearing down a single family home and putting an 8-story mid-rise in the lot. That destroys the character of the neighborhood, destroys the neighborhood for people who have lived there for a very long time and who expect to be able to retire there, and who are suddenly lost all the value in their home and are not able to access their home because it's under construction for 2 years in the neighborhood. I think we need to put our foot down to developers. Yes, we need some more affordable housing near the coast. There is a lot of affordable housing further inland. I don't think that we are on fire. There are places for people to live. But I think giving developers the green light to build wherever they want is not a way to get more affordable housing. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. Okay, I'm just gonna do a few more minutes and get the last three, it looks like, for comments, and then we're gonna move into any changes, amendments, or motions on this, or if we still need to look at the rest. It sounds like most of you've read the whole thing, so I'm gonna go ahead to Kirsten.
Hi, can everyone hear me? Yeah, okay. Good evening. My name's Kirsten Markley, and I saw someone comment earlier. I am a renter here in San Diego. And I'm talking in support of SB 79. I moved here like 4 years ago. And I really love San Diego. And what I think makes San Diego the best, and what makes it so I can't leave San Diego, no matter how expensive it is, no matter how hard it is to find somewhere to live, and the traffic, it's the people that I live around, and it's the community. And a lot of those people are people who struggle to afford the places that they currently live. And like, I can't imagine having to look for another home now. Like, I renew my lease every year because I don't want to go look. I can't even imagine the rent prices because of the shortage of housing. And we really need to do whatever it is to increase the supply of housing. And this bill is one step forward. And even if you in the future have issues with, projects that come about because of this bill, like that's something you can deal with project by project. But saying no to this one general step in the right direction feels like someone said, like, people who have houses here and they own their homes and they want their house values to stay high enough. And it feels like you are really against like a lot of the community members who don't have the time and resources to come to these meetings. So like you to think about them, and that this doesn't really represent like people like me who would like to live in dense housing near transit, so I don't have to drive in traffic every day. So thank you.
Thank you, Kirsten. Okay, Gabrielle.
Yes, hi. My name is Gabrielle. I'm a member of the Downtown Community Planning Group, and I'm here to echo some of the concerns that some of my other CPG representatives have expressed, which is this concern that this strongly voiced opposition to SB 79 was drafted without any input from our group or some of these other groups or the communities that we represent. And so this issue was not brought before our board, and the letter does not reflect our views. And as far as I can see, this group drafting this letter is not diverse and does not reflect the demographics or lived experiences of the broader communities that will be impacted. And yet they're speaking on behalf of people who are too often excluded from these conversations. So I think it's also from the, well-intentioned but misinformed descriptions of SB 79 I've heard throughout this call. This is not a policy think tank. This is a community-based group made up of community representatives, and our responsibility is to bring this to people, is to bring our people into the process and not speak over them. So unfortunately, this does seem to be a pattern that is like long upheld of planning groups having a history of opposing equitable housing and transportation solutions. So I would suggest that if CPC is going to weigh in on important legislation, it should do so through an open and inclusive process and not be drafted behind closed doors, and should definitely come before our boards before you submit stuff like this. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabrielle. Just so you know, we did bring this up at an open board meeting. It was on the agenda last month, and that board is who decided that we should draft the letter. So I just want to clarify that this is an open process, that we did have it on the agenda, and that everyone was welcome to speak at that time. So
yes, that it doesn't go before our boards where our representative has our opinion and feedback as a board before you guys have those meetings. So
yeah, and I understand I feel strongly the same way. I would like to bring everything before my board, before CPC, but there was a time constraint on this because of it moving through legislation. So that's the reason that we looked at this as a special meeting, because this was moving quite quickly. So just for time's sake here, I've got 6 hands raised. We are getting very close to, I'm going to actually only be able to give the last 6 here about a minute each to speak. So just so you know, because I'm trying to keep the our time frame here, and we also need to make a decision on the letter. So I'm going to go rather quickly. So if you will, I'm going to let you know when your time's up. And we'll go ahead with the phone 619-208-6813, please.
Hi, this is Laura from Eastern area, and I just want to point out that our letter is in support of local control. We're not saying that areas that want to have more density and that's what is good for their area, that we're not saying they can't have that. We are actually going more in guidelines with the City of San Diego's state and federal legislative platform and its guiding principles that say that they want to promote social justice, equity, inclusive economic development, preserve local control, and support fiscal stability and funding opportunities. Those are their main principles. And SB 79 absolutely just eliminates so many of the stated statements regarding housing and what housing development can look like and be. SB 9 is a one-size-fits-all. It has no variation, and we are trying through this letter to show that we do need local control so that we can have more variation that supports our city and not just San Francisco, which is limited by its geography. That's all.
Thank you, Laura. Okay, Holden.
Hi, everybody. My name is Holden Wesley Bull. I serve on the North Park Planning Committee, but tonight I'm just speaking as an individual, not on behalf of the NPPC. So I wanted to first second Harry's comment earlier on about the process. Our board meets next week and hasn't had the chance to formally discuss this bill. So like some other folks have said, I'm just uncomfortable with any language suggesting that the CPC represents the unified views of all 41 community planning groups, especially without an open and transparent process to solicit views from the individual CPGs. And now just speaking personally, I'm a young person trying to build a life in San Diego, and I'm also a regular bus and trolley rider, and I want to express really strong support for the goals of SB 79. So many of my peers are leaving San Diego, not because they want to, but because of the cost of living. And we've made it nearly impossible to build enough housing where it's needed, which is near jobs, transit, and opportunity. And when I was running for NPPC and talking with my neighbors, one of the leading issues I heard people concerned about was the need for more housing. So I get that SB 79 isn't perfect, but it's much better than nothing because it lets us put housing where it makes most sense, which is near trolley stops and rapid bus lines. And today that land is often just service parking or aging commercial buildings or otherwise underutilized. So we've already invested in the transit, and now we need to make it possible for people to live near it. And I also just want to express that, I don't believe that this bill really will bulldoze single-family neighborhoods or erase community character. By targeting these underutilized parcels within walking distance of trolley and rapid bus lines, we're just giving people a chance to make a life in San Diego. So what I want to ask is, how is the status quo working for us? We're about 80,000 homes short of our housing target by 2029, and every delay or denial or time we say not here to housing, it just pushes people further out into longer commutes and higher rents and more financial stress. So I would just really like to see us, rather than using this forum to oppose new housing, use our time and influence to convene a serious conversation reflecting all the different views of the many different and diverse neighborhoods we have in San Diego about how community planning groups can help solve the housing crisis in a collaborative way, because right now we're still falling short.
Okay, thank you, Holden. All right, David.
This David Swarens?
Swarens, yes.
Golden Hill. I have concerns with SB 79. As a planning group member, we're directed to use our community plans as the basis for decision making in terms of recommendations. We have a balanced community plan, which was last updated in 2016. It has recommendations and accommodations for high density zones and corridors that were thoughtful, balanced, and inclusive, developed in a process of almost 8 years. I was following the format and waiting till we got to the paragraph I had specific comments on. I think that the letter is well drafted, only improved by the most recent edits. But I wanted to suggest adding in the fails to account for add cultural and historical resources. Mentions architecture, but new building can be good design, good architecture, and it's sad to lose old good architecture in some cases, but cultural resources, historic resources are once they're gone, they are gone, and they are accommodated in our considerations with the development of community plans, and are certainly not considered present under the constantly changing SB 79.
Thank you, David. Syed?
Hello, I want to touch upon just briefly San Diego's median rent, 3,200, San Diego's median home price near $1 million. There's simply a lack of homes for people to attain and be able to live in. Without more homes, people are pushed further and further out. Some people commute from Temecula, and it creates a lot of significant hardship on folks. Importantly, groups like the Nonprofit Housing Association of Northern California support this bill because it will increase the amount of affordable housing. In order for nonprofit affordable home builders to build, they need land to build, and ideally they want to build near transit because many of their residents can't afford a car. So in order to even allow affordable housing, which has to be built more densely, just because of the simple mathematics of that, we would encourage people to be able to live in near transit and build more affordable housing through that mechanism as well. So I strongly oppose the CPC sending this bill. It will reduce affordable housing options if we oppose this bill.
Thank you. And okay, lastly, John, please.
Yeah, I think what I brought up earlier is San Diego has this process, the update of the community plans, which is a democratic, open basis, and it provides housing in the areas that make most sense. Near employment, near activity centers, near colleges, all those are the best place to focus your housing efforts, not to disperse it and make it the sole choice of a developer that decides that it might work someplace else. And so I'm really arguing that San Diego has a good process. They've created a lot of capacity, and to build out that capacity will take some time. But what's happened actually in San Diego over the last 5 years is rents have stabilized. And the other part of it is people that live in urban environments, and I live in Pacific Beach now, but I used to live in Little Italy, so I've lived in both of them. They're different. They're a different lifestyle. People don't drive to Temecula necessarily because the housing is more affordable there. They drive there because I used to live out there. They drive there because that's where they can achieve the kind of housing and lifestyle they want, which is a single family house on an individual lot. That is not the future of San Diego. San Diego needs some dense centers, and that's what San Diego is planning. So I'm really advocating more, as several of the other members of, it's really the idea that local communities can provide more housing opportunities. And over time, those can be made more affordable. But the only way to actually get affordable housing is deep pockets, the state or the city, to the extent they can, providing subsidies. The private market is not going to provide substantial amounts of affordable housing because the affordable housing costs a lot of money. I used to do this as in my profession. The density, you have to have a lot of expensive units in order to provide a few affordable units. And the city's approach has been much better. Provide density where it makes sense and where the communities are accepting of it. And you have large buildings with lots of units that rent at the market rate. And actually, those areas, there's a huge wave of apartment construction that's going to moderate and lower rents more. And we need to do more of that, not
Okay.
less.
Thank you, John. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to close it just now to CPC members. And Felicity, I saw you on there. Laura, you still have your hand raised, I think. So if there's CPC members, what I'd like to do is either get more explanations, suggestions, or a motion.
Just
going.
a point of information. Do we have quorum? It seemed like the count was 17 at the top of the meeting.
Yeah, I'm going to have to verify with Marlon, but I did talk to him beforehand, and quorum is 21. However, there's about 6 or 7 planning groups that have not been showing up, so they're considered vacant right now. So that drops the quorum level down. So I'm going to verify the numbers in the end. Unfortunately, Marlon couldn't be here tonight.
Could you point to where that is in the bylaws that you can declare them vacant at a special meeting before a vote?
Yeah, yes, I can. Marlon, I specifically asked him about that
Victoria, sorry,
today.
my apologies for interrupting, but
Yeah.
I could look for that in the bylaws because that is absolutely the way it works. The way
Yeah, it's CPC Article 4, Section 2. So if you take a look at that, that's in the bylaws. Okay, so back to, sorry, I've got,
I'd just like to add 2 points. So I had originally started to talk about the changes in the first paragraph, and I realized that there was actually a revision to this revision that we didn't put in here that Laura actually discussed during her comment. So I just want to emphasize that there's an important revision that is not included here that I think is a little bit more explanatory of our opposition. And I'll just read it because I have it. I don't know if you can find it and insert it, but the revision to this revision, the first in the first paragraph states, while Senator Wiener's fact sheet states the city of San Diego supports SB 79, neither the mayor nor the city council have explicitly endorsed SB 79. In fact, San Diego's legislative platform not only emphasizes support of land use regulations that would be eliminated by SB 79, it supports retaining local control over state and federal regulations in general. Any statement of implied or explicit support for SB 79 runs counter to these principles. And I also want to point out that in SB 79, the local control is taken away because we're subjected to ministerial review, and we're also subjected to a waiver of CEQA, which is, obviously an important component to development. So I don't know, Victoria, if you want to add the revised language back in so that there's full disclosure on what we're seeking to explain here and what our opposition is based on.
Yeah, let me
and that basically that came in later this afternoon, so I understand there's been sort of a flurry of activity to get this thing ready to go, but
do you remember which version?
Sure. It came out at 10:12 a.m. this morning from Laura.
Okay, it was okay. So it was in an email.
Yeah, it was in an email. And if you'd like, while you're searching, I could run through the members with their hands up, if you'd like me to do that for you.
Yes, that would be great.
Okay, so I'm vice chair of the CPC, and while Victoria is working at the task at hand there, I'm going to start with David.
And Felicity, can you drop share? So I'll just quickly do these things.
I'm sorry.
Can you unshare and allow me to share?
Oh, that's me.
I don't have.
There.
Sorry.
David, there you go.
So I'll just start with this. There was the question about the bylaws, and it's this section right here that says once you have 3 absences, you're no longer part of the voting quorum of the planning group. And because it was something we discussed elsewhere, there was some interest in what is covered by this bill. And it's roughly the purple areas down here, down in the south part of the city. These would all be subject to the state rules and the absence of local control over zoning in these areas. So that's my comment.
Okay, thank you, David. Any more hands up for CPC board members?
Oh, I apologize. A late arrival from college area has arrived to represent them.
Okay.
I noticed Yvonne.
Thank you. Were there any other CPG late arrivals that missed the roll call? Okay. All right. Okay, I added that back in, and let's see.
Michael, your hand is up. Michael Singleton.
Yes. Yeah, we're all in a tough spot on this. You know, it's short notice and people haven't been able to really vet it with their groups, but I understand the urgency for it. Is it possible, well, for instance, will you allow an abstention on this if you're asking us to vote on it? Because I know I can't vote for it and I can't vote against it because of not having input from my community group. And then secondly, will you list that as a somewhere in this letter so it doesn't appear, which I think is concern of a lot of people who you know, support some of the bill or all of the bill, to say that it's all of us agree, all 42 areas agree with it. I just think there needs to be at least some summary on that. I know that maybe weaken your position slightly on it, but I think to be fair to the groups that haven't had the time to really go over this and have a variety of opinions, that you should allow an abstention on the vote and at least be able to indicate that it's fine for you to say it's the majority of the community groups oppose it, but don't make it sound like every one of us opposes it, because some of us, and you've heard from a lot of other people that don't necessarily oppose it. I basically think there's some good things in there, and I think there's some bad things in there. And really, without having the chance to talk to our members, and I did have it on our agenda at our last group meeting, but we squeezed in at the last minute. There was really no discussion on it that we really were able to have. So,
Michael, are you representing your as a voting member, your planning group?
for Uptown, I'm the chair. Matt Driver is vice chair. Sometimes he comes to it, sometimes I come to the meeting, but he would support it, and I would not necessarily be able to support it because of other members that I have talked to on our board.
Okay, and you are able to well, make a motion with an amendment or that kind of stuff, just so you know. This is where we're open to amendments or what have you, and then a discussion is raised for that. So I think at this time, Lynn, I know you've got your hand up as a CPC member. What would you like to contribute? Is Lynn there?
Victoria, could you put the letter back up with that
Yeah.
revision? Because I think it does straighten out some of the concerns.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Lynn, are you?
Jeff, Carmel Valley.
This vacant thing, you can't be.
Yeah,
reliant on
thank
that.
you. Yeah, thank you. I just want to say Carmel Valley fully supports the letter and what it stands for. I think there's reasons to keep the letter the way it is, as far as saying that the CPC doesn't oppose it, because it's kind of a winner take all on a vote, I would think, in that case. But I think we have a real problem with a lot of this being based on studies with long horizons, identifying transit stops that may or may not even occur. We also think that things like this, the bill sponsors seem to be going after available density at the expense of single-family housing, much like they did with ADUs and bonus ADUs. And also, I think as far as building a 7-story apartment building down by the train tracks or the train depot and all that, doesn't necessarily mean that all those people in that structure are using the train every day. But I do think indeed that every car in that parking lot that at the train depot is indeed using the train that day. So that's all I have to say about that.
Thank you, John.
Thanks.
Okay, any other questions about the letter itself? And if so, we'll just take another couple minutes. Otherwise, if we could have a motion on the floor regarding the letter, we should probably start with an emotion and then we can go from there. So this is from only CPG members.
I'll make a motion to approve the letter with the most recent changes or revisions, however you want to word it, that have been included this evening.
I second the motion.
Eric.
Who seconded?
Eric.
Eric? Thank you, Eric. Okay. Some discussion. Revisions, revisions.
If we could go back to that addition that you just put in, Victoria, I think this kind of straightens out one of the reasons. The strongest opposition for this bill is that it runs completely counter to what San Diego's legislative platform is. So I hear the support for SB 79. What I don't hear is the opposition saying you can't build anything. And in fact, we already do have a lot of building programs in place. So
didn't this meeting open up talking about how many the recent ADU pushback and how this as an example of why we need to oppose SB 79, we need to cite the example of why we needed to oppose the ADU bonus program,
because
the single biggest program to build more housing in San Diego.
Well, the ADU bonus program in San Diego, which is piggyback on top of the state mandated ADU program, was an unworkable program and was in dire need of reform, and that's what it got. So the reason
by limiting how much development there could be. Like if you guys want to oppose this, go for it, but be honest with yourselves. Every single pro-development policy is opposed as a matter of rote by this platform.
Yeah. Okay, Brendan, I think if you
Who's
all
allowed to
please,
vote?
yeah, we're gonna go ahead and Robin's had her hand up for a while. So Robin, if you go ahead.
Hi, I am the chair of the RB planning group, but I'm not representing it tonight. Vicky touched on this, but I just wanted to, in the letter, I'm not going to make comments since the motion has been made, and again, I'm not representing, but I do have 2 minor adjustments. It's just common things that you might want to, where on page 1, at the very top where it says subject underneath District 80, I think there should be a little extra space there. And then in the first paragraph, the third line, wait, where is it? Oh, no, I'm sorry. On the first page, the last paragraph, third sentence, it's giving references, and it says, indeed, while San Diego has vertically grown in places, blah, 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 like downtown, UTC. You're sending this to strangers who don't know San Diego. UTC should be spelled out University Town Center. So those are my only minor things.
Since we're going so minor, can there be a roll call on who's actually attending? And if there is a quorum, even with these so-called vacancies, and then take a vote to make this official?
Is this, who's speaking? Is this Brendan?
This is Harry Bubbins from
Harry? Oh, there you are, Harry.
San
Thanks.
Diego. Yeah, since someone just talked about that, it would be nice to know who's actually attending to vote officially and these so-called vacancies before you take this vote. I think that would be great.
We took a roll call at the beginning of the meeting.
Are they still here? Are they still here? Who's attending? Who's attending to vote?
When we take a
and
vote,
who's
I will
not?
be,
Who
Harry,
and who are the
excuse me,
so-called
Harry,
vacancies?
Harry, when we take a vote, I will be doing a roll call, so you will hear the representative.
Okay, great. Sorry about that. Thank you.
No problem. No problem. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Robin, for the changes. UTC, I can see that being in, and yes, the spacing, we'll get that lined out too, or lined up. Okay. All right. I think we need to go ahead as we're past our meeting time, and we're going to go ahead and the motion is to approve the letter with the most recent revisions, changes, and I think we can add spelling out UTC in there and getting the spacing changed. Okay, does that sound right?
Yes, and there are formatting issues that I pointed out earlier regarding the footnotes. For
Yes,
reference.
correct. We'll get the footnotes straightened out as well. All right. So what I'm going to go ahead to do, we're going to go into, I'm going back to the roll call. And if you are here and I don't call your name, please make sure and raise your hand or call me out on it. And okay, I'm going to be starting with Carmel Valley.
Yes.
Okay. College area.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Del Mar Mesa.
No.
Okay. Downtown.
Oppose.
Okay. Eastern area.
Yes.
Kensington Talmadge.
Yes.
La Jolla.
Yes.
Linda Vista.
Yes.
Midway.
We are not eligible to vote at this time.
Thank you. Mission Valley.
Yes.
North Park. Is North Park still here? Okay. Pacific Beach.
North Park is
Yes.
abstain, sorry.
Oh, is that North Park?
Yes, abstain, I don't have a committee, I don't have a recommendation
Okay.
by committee.
Thank you, North Park. Okay. Peninsula. Is Eric still
There
here?
we go. Got it. Yes.
Okay. Rancho Bernardo.
Yes.
Scripps Ranch. Yes. Torrey Pines.
Yes, with reservations.
Okay.
And I do think that the community planning groups need to take into account that we do need to build somewhere. And I don't know if we can start working on what we can do. Thank you.
Thank you. University. Did I get University?
Yes.
Oh, there you are, Chris. Okay. And Uptown.
Yeah, I did have my hand up to make an amendment, but since that didn't happen, I reluctantly have to abstain on it.
Okay. All right. Felicity, are you counting as well?
Sorry, I am counting. Have you gone through the entire roll?
Yes. Are we missing anybody? Did anybody?
Golden Hill
Golden Hill. Golden Hill, what's your vote?
votes yes.
Okay.
So I have 14 ayes.
Uh-huh.
I counted 2 nays and 1 ineligible and 2 abstentions.
Yes.
I thought North Park was an abstention. It was a little fuzzy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, Lynn, were you an abstention?
Yes.
Okay. So
North
we have,
Park was, okay. And 1 ineligible? Okay.
I had Midway as ineligible, 2 nays, 2 abstentions, and 14 ayes.
Okay. That's what I had. All right, thank you. The ayes have it at 14. Okay. All right, thank you, everyone. I'm just gonna stop this. And that is all. We can go ahead and adjourn. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time out this evening to meet with us and for all your voices. So have a very good evening.